Right, so today we're looking at GDPR for recruiters. Now, lots and lots of people look at GDPR for recruiters, and there's almost like overkill on the amount of advice being given to make you compliant. What I want to focus on, though, from Barclay Jones' perspective, is the sorts of practices that you can do in your business that are, God forbid, fun and actually are going to make you money as a result of GDPR. My name is Lisa Jones from Barclay Jones, and we have three core offerings. The first one is to obviously deliver recruiter success training. We specialise in all sorts of very interesting modules, but the goal for us is to make recruiters more successful. If you need help implementing or understanding the technology within your business, then that's what we do. And also we do social recruitment and digital marketing strategies. So we work with all sizes of businesses on all three of those areas, but the theme is it's all about recruitment. And we're also an award-winning business as well. So we are absolutely delighted to be AppsCo's basically Supplier of the Year from last year. And interestingly, a great influencer from UK Recruiters' perspective, and our blog as well has won awards. So 3 years on the trot, we've won an award. So I wonder what 2018 could bring. So we are delighted to be a valued partner of this ecosystem. A number of them are in front of you right now. And certainly if you go off and download any of our resources from our website, you maybe watch some of our YouTube videos, which are all about recruitment again. We've got a fantastic newsletter which recruiters love receiving, gives them lots of hacks and tips. And also we have a Recruitment Leaders podcast. About once every 2 to 3 weeks, we'll launch a new podcast from a recruitment leader, likes of Anne Swain, Greg Savage, Alex Moyle, etc. All of them really useful. So GDPR, is it a goddamn protection racket? It kind of feels like that right now. I do feel, though, that if you are the right kind of recruitment leader, you will be looking at opportunities really to make money from this particular system, because it's not necessarily about grinding down perfect recruiters, and it's not necessarily about the vision that most people have of recruiters is basically this global desire to place randomly, and it's definitely not about geothermal plundering of recruiters as well. I think it's about great data and processes rewarded. Now, we're a big fan of the 3 Cs, or has recently been born into the 4 Cs recently, and GDPR is a big boost of that. We're looking at candidates, clients and consultants as being the core things that you want to do here. And ultimately, let's face it, even the lawyers aren't really clear, and I don't want to do any of them any disservices, but I've been to too many seminars where there's a lot of fence sitting and splinters, and I totally get why. So I'm interested in common sense approaches to how this legislation could affect good recruitment businesses. So for me, GDPR is all about process, and equally both the acronym and the word process doesn't instill many people with much, wow, isn't Lisa fun to be around? But trust me, this is going to be a good webinar. This is about being smart and only storing the data that you actually need. This is being smart and making sure that you only get it from public spaces where consent has been given in theory. And obviously it means CRM first. Now, if you've come across Barclay Jones before, you'll know that CRM first is a massive mantra of ours. And we actually do see GDPR or CRM first as the antidote to GDPR. And we'll talk a little bit about CRM first, but we will direct you outside of this webinar to other resources that you can gather on CRM first. So if you're an Adapt user, Adapt first. If you're a Bullhorn user, Bullhorn first. Firefish first. In other words, making your CRM the center of your ecosystem, and not just something that you dump data on, and not just something else that you use to source your data from. Because I'm a big fan of, we are definitely now, and I've been saying this for years, that yes, you can be sourcing, really cool at sourcing, but don't you want to be an attraction genius? Isn't that what your clients kind of think you are already, but you're too afraid to admit you're not? So that's something to think about. I do think as well that I want you to think about throughout this webinar and any of the other webinars that you've been on regarding GDPR, that coping with FOMO, or a fear of recruiters missing out, has to be your #1 priority. The reason that the market is so stressed about GDPR is because they're now realizing that all these years of data hoarding is going to bite them. Now, today's webinar is not about the facts and figures behind GDPR. I'm assuming that you've done all of this already. I'm assuming that you want to listen to this webinar because you want some practical advice on how to make money from this legislation and come out stronger as a result. Not just, well, let's just wipe our databases and hope to God the world doesn't end. So if this FOMO plus what I call option paralysis is creating a hairdressing cult or community within your business, then we need to think about stop paralyzing our recruiters with options, Stop drowning them in data, and let's stop encouraging independent, invisible data silos and processes. Let's create collaboration between sales and marketing to generate profit. That's what GDPR is telling me to tell all of my clients. Because there isn't a candidate shortage unless, of course, you are genuinely in the market for nuclear physicists, astronauts, or whatever. There's just an interested candidate shortage, and that's why so many people are feeling a little bit disenfranchised by GDPR. But also what we suffer from in the marketing community is definitely not a lack of content, because there's, to be frank, enough content out there. There's just not enough of the relevant stuff, which again, think about GDPR and the opportunity. That's what we're going to talk about today. Because I'm seeing recruiters giving targets to their marketeers, what I call vanity targets of generating followers. I'm not seeing sanity targets for conversions. I'm seeing crazy behaviors like hoarding, praying, and deleting, which of course is not ideal. I have a case study of a client of mine. They're 12 people strong, and they have 185,000 records on their ADAPT system. When we actually asked them to nudge that data around, they admitted they had 15,000 contacts, 130,000 candidates, and then they actually admitted another 35,000 records that they didn't really know what it was. And oh my God, if ever there was an acronym, that equates to 15,000 records per recruiter. I've yet to come across any business model in the recruitment world that needs that much data. And even if you had 1/10 of that data on your system, would the average recruitment consultant really need 1,500 records to be profitable? Bearing in mind the average recruiter is only placing one permanent candidate a month. That's interesting. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is converting your data into opportunities and obviously cash. Think about how much data you've got, segment it to do something with it. You know, you can't eat an elephant all at once, and all those lovely civil service terminologies I learned in my younger days before I went into private sector. Create a plan for beyond May 18, because the world's not going to end, so you're not going to be excused for just sitting there and hoping to God it will. And think about keeping what you need, not what you want. Nobody needs 15,000 records per person. Segment your data then. This is my personal model. I've not downloaded this from anywhere, but being an ex-IT director for a number of years, this is kind of what I tend to work on, my 4 levels of data, the Jones approach to data layers. And maybe you've got your own version. Feel free to comment. In my world, there's 4 levels of data, and GDPR is just making this more crystalline. So tomorrow's data, what do we not have yet that we desperately need? Then the next level down, and this is almost like a pyramid, chopping off the top, the most prime rump, or whatever you want to call it. Level 2 is what have you placed or invoiced or actively engaged with? Who have you interviewed? Who have you sent documents to? Who have you met and shaken the hand of? Hi, John, how are you? Who's got your number? When you ring them and they say, hi, Lisa, or hi, Phil, who's got your number? Then we've got yesterday's data. So candidates that maybe applied for a job that you didn't really do anything with. And then the final layer, maybe data that you shouldn't have. And actually, maybe you don't need that data. So this client of mine that's got 15,000 records per person, and their database is only 3 years old. So that gives you an idea about what they might have been up to. They've got data on there that they don't need, that they shouldn't have, that they've probably been downloading from all sorts of spurious places. So think about 2018, and not just about data, not just about GDPR, but about KPIs, about systems, about people. What do you need, not what do you want? Think about how much you need. How many recruiters do you have? How many contacts do they need? How many candidates do they need? And very importantly, and this is where marketing is interesting, what is your marketing department doing, and how much do they need to nurture and convert the data to constantly be replenishing your stocks? Create a plan. But what we're not going to do, and I'm hearing this too often, and it makes me laugh every time, is let's send out an email to everybody asking them if they want to unsubscribe. I've yet to meet someone who's really good at dating, where the first tactic is to go into a nightclub and say, who doesn't want to date me? It's almost like allowing people to deselect themselves. I think there's a more effective way of doing that, and one that probably doesn't involve you getting sued. The examples in front of you here have been sued because what they stupidly did was mail shot loads of people who in the past may have asked to be removed, but nobody did anything about it. I can guarantee that every single recruitment business out there is under threat from this kind of issue because they probably haven't trained their recruiters or their marketeers enough over the years to take seriously the right to be forgotten. and there are risks associated with that. So what's Lisa's advice for this? Think about being Lauren Bacall and saying to Bogey, you just put your lips together and blow. Proper flirting, thinking about, this is your last chance, baby. Are we doing this or not? But again, I'm receiving lots of emails from Recruitment Grapevine at the moment. It's driving me a little bit nuts, as much as I do love them, saying this is your last chance. But there's something in this. I don't know if you've noticed recently, certainly in women's clothing shops, there's a new last chance rail with the clothes on that traditionally would have gone into the sale, but now are sat on the last chance rail, and we're all going, oh, don't want to miss out, better buy it before they're gone. Whereas previously would have gone, leave them, we'll get them in the sale. Because GDPR is telling us that we need consent before we contact, not process, but contact, there's a difference, and we'll discuss that later. We need to think about what data we need from this bottom tier that may be convertible, and maybe the last chance email that we send could be that. What am I saying that you do with this? I'm saying that you stand there fluttering your eyelashes, twirling your hair, even if you're a bloke, and saying to your audience, look, everyone else thinks we're great. Look at this podcast we launched recently. These were the words to describe what people thought of it. Look at this blog that we published recently, and look where it went, and look what our community thought of it. Look at the impact we've had with this salary survey. Do you really want to miss out on this? Here's your last chance. And focus on the people that are just not coming back to you. So if you're a MailChimp user, you'll understand that there are rankings 1 through 5 in terms of star rankings. So focus on rankings 1 through 2, set up your last chance email, look a bit coy, and if they don't respond, kill them off and feel good about that. But maybe only after you've dealt with levels 1 through 3. But get your marketeers to deal with level 4, because too often I'm going into recruitment businesses and we're asking our salespeople to interact with all 4 levels of data. Not in their wheelhouse, not a good use of their time. They need to be probably only focusing on the top 2 tiers. So get practical, people. Segment your data so you can see it, sort it into piles. What plans have you got for each segment? Think about what content plans you might have for keeping tomorrow's data really fixated on you, because that's going to be your most precious data going forward. That's the stuff you're going to land tomorrow. Get your lippy on, get your makeup on, get your content right, and keep them. Think about what the sales process is for engaging with your contacts, and then think about what marketing is doing to drive great data into sales. Ultimately, your marketing's job is to take levels 3 and 4 and drive it up. That's their job, is to bat it up so sales can grab it. But sometimes and often marketeers in recruitment are not focused on that as their role. They're focused on just generating noise. Not good enough in 2018. The next thing I want you to think about is a conversion plan. That's, again, sales and marketing need to work together to convert. Because followers are just so yesterday. They're such a vanity score. It's a bit like saying, I don't know, how many calls could you make to make a placement? Well, that's not the only indicator of success. So followers, although they're great, they don't mean everything. And ultimately, subscribers, GDPR is telling us, are crucial. You don't need consent to store people's data. We'll talk about that in a second. But you ideally need it to communicate with them. So as much as we might get very excited about the LinkedIn followers that we've got, we need to convert them into subscribers. We need to give them an excuse to stay on our systems and be heard from by us. Heard? Yeah, that kind of makes sense. We want people to be scared of opting out, and we want to create a USP. We want to say to our clients, not only do we have, 15,000 LinkedIn followers, but 13,000 of those have opted in to listen to us. When we speak, they look up. When we call, they say, hi, John, or hi, Phil. So think about your conversion plan, because processing data, you don't need consent to do that. There are 3 elements that you as a recruiter can fall back on. A contractual necessity, clearly not consent, and definitely legitimate interest. So have a think about those 3 elements and think about, have you got one of those 3 to keep you safe? Think about your get out of jail free card being legitimate interest. If you're a vet recruiter and you have vets on your system, fine. If you're an accountancy recruiter and you've got vets on your system, not fine. All good stuff. Your goal as a recruiter is to convert strangers into invoices. Your goal is to convert strangers into bill payers. Might sound a bit crude, but that's ultimately what your goal is. And sometimes we lose sight of that. And certainly the marketeers that I work with often lose sight of that because they're given stuff to do that's not going to help that conversion. Equally, your goal as a recruitment leader is to create data for your staff to feed off of. And 15,000 records per person does not create a successful recruiter. Equally, creating a database that candidates and clients do not want to be on is not helpful. So think about conversions, think about creating great data sources that your recruiters are reliant upon and can't leave you because without your data, they're screwed. And think about your clients going, no, I don't want to be disconnected from you. Keep me on your database. I don't want to unsubscribe. Keep me on your systems. What you have to say and how you deal with me is critical to the growth of my business and the furtherment of my career. So start creating sanity targets. Followers, great, then convert them into subscribers. Think about the processes that you can engage with in your recruitment business for automated emails, i.e. you're sending stuff regularly, you're not just sending it via a schedule. If I click on GDPR, it's important that I receive more GDPR information. Think about LinkedIn follow-ups. So we have a really cool system within Barclay Jones where if we connect with someone on LinkedIn and they say yes, and we always connect with our clients and all of their staff. So we have a specific process for doing this. We don't just do it by accident. We have targets that as soon as someone says yes to a connection, we follow up straight away with a brilliant, thanks for that. How about subscribing to our newsletter? Or we've got some really cool hacks on our YouTube channel. Oh, and we've got a Recruitment Leaders podcast. And it really helps us with our subscription numbers. Think about your email signatures, a bit crude, but can work a treat. Think about website pop-ups. What's your website doing right now to convert surfers into subscribers? Look at every single touch point you have right now. It could be all the bullhorn emails that leave your system. It could be your texts. It could be your interview confirmations. It could be your application acceptances. Just look at your candidate and client journeys and at every stage remind them to subscribe, but give them a reason to do that. Subscribe becomes very boring. Don't miss out on our next salary survey, might be more compelling. 9 out of 10 engineers that read this particular article found it really useful for their career progression. Subscribe here. So calls to action don't just need to be subscribe. They can be subscribe or lose. So have a think about that. Get a process for generating subscribers, not just noise. Think about what I call pockets of interest or silos of data. Think about your LinkedIn followers, LinkedIn connections, email recipients, event attendees, job applications, web surfers, social media followers. Basically, think about your communities. Think about how to convert them. Stop disconnecting marketing from the sales process by everyone having different goals. Marketing's goal is to generate more of the 3 C's, candidates, clients, consultants, and God help me, but subscribers has a C in it somewhere. So that could work as well. The next thing I want you to think about is redefine marketing. I've got a real passion for this. As an ex-IT director, i.e. someone who was brilliant at buying loads of kit and often was measured on her uptime rather than her ability to generate fees. One day my commercial director, and he had a big impact on my career, said, Lisa, I'm not interested in what you do with your time. I'm not interested in the next best system or the code that you want to write. I'm interested if I give you £1, you bring me 2 back. And that was great advice for me as a non-sales person. So I bring that advice into the marketing mentoring that I deliver into recruitment marketeers and recruitment leaders. And I say, you are not just the colouring in department. You're a stalker, you're a converter. You are there to create desirability. You are there drying the buyer's process, which we'll talk about in a second. You are there like the difference between silver service or buffet. And I'll probably do a blog on that one day. But I look at the way marketeers should be is stood behind the client at all times, offering what they need, as opposed to just spreading it all out on the web and hoping to God that somebody finds it. That's the difference. And I do know that I enjoy a silver service meal a damn sight better than a buffet meal, because when I pile my plate high with buffet food, I don't respect it, and I probably don't respect myself at the end. So think about the silver service approach to recruitment marketing and sales, and ultimately let's make recruitment marketing more scientific. The buyer's journey is critical to GDPR. That's what GDPR is, isn't it? It's not just about hoarding data and spamming it. It's about converting it. So think about awareness, consideration and decision, which is a HubSpot route. And I've added the Barclay Jones retain, because that's what all my clients want to do. They want to do more with less. It's a critical element, and often one that's misunderstood or not really engaged with by a sales or a marketing perspective. So think about whether your processes and your content is just noise or admin, or whether it's actually creating the conversions that you need to make money. Treat your community as magpies. People love shiny stuff, especially online. Can you get funky with shiny content, simple content hacks to lure people to you? If I see another boring blog that has not been stretched into an infographic or a quick Loom video, what a shame. Capture them with content. So don't just give it to them. If they want it, they need to give you an email account. Now, some people are a bit suspicious of this, but the main reason that the people are suspicious is often because they're asked to give their email away for content that isn't of much value. Now ask yourself, if your content is not valuable enough to generate an email address from someone or a subscription from someone, create better content. End of. We do loads of content workshops with recruiters to get them really focused on not coming off the phone to write a blog, God forbid, but generating content while they're on the phone to create more conversions. If you want to know more about that, drop us a line. But do think about creating hero content that doesn't take years. White papers should not be that complicated. Ebooks are better. Short 30-second videos. Look at what Greg Savage does, for God's sake. Awesome stuff, and all he does is sit there and have a chat. Sign-up forms, downloadable or gateable content. Retain your subscribers. That's what GDPR is demanding of us. We've got to change our behaviors in order to work on that retention piece. I'm a big fan of what I call content yoga, my own concept, but the idea being, why write a blog, post it, walk away and go, well, that didn't work? Same with adverts, actually. Why aren't we repurposing our content? So, for example, with this very webinar right now, my marketeer is going to splice and dice. She's going to take certain slides and post them to guide you back to the mothership. She's going to chuck it all over the web, but not all in the same format. I might even create a very short face-to-face video outside of this just to promote the video itself. We could even then have a podcast on it, do a quick infographic on it with the 5 things to think about to drive content, drive the users back, getting them to want to sign up. This is all about stretching. This is how I came up with the yoga concept, taking a small concept and stretching it across all of your channels in lots of different ways. In other words, less content, more marketing. Less candidates, more placements. 15,000 records, really? That's a lot of data. That's a lot of data storage. That's a lot of stuff in the way of great sourcing techniques. That's a lot of wasted marketing pounds and dollars and euros. And that's a lot of unopened emails and low subscription and email opens. Not good. None of these stats are good. So GDPR, to finish off, beyond May 2018. It's not about delete and run. It's not about, God, I hope this is going to work. This is about, thank God, we've got legislation coming in that is forcing me to deliver what I've always wanted to deliver, which is using data that I need, not want. And not having to buy every system out there to generate more data, because the average recruitment leader and IT director seriously has got enough on their plate, let alone more invoices to be paid for yet another job board. Think about the process of converting that data into subscribers, those subscribers into advocates, those advocates into interviewees or placed candidates or paying clients. And look at your marketing team. It might be a team of 1, it might be a team of 10, and say, what are you going to do this year to generate more followers, convert them into subscribers, and drive them through that buying process so that my sales team can convert them into money? And you've got to ask them that question. So you've got to say to yourselves outside of this webinar, what are you going to do now? And obviously we'll send you a copy of this webinar immediately afterwards once it's kind of compacted and so on. But think about, what are you going to do? Are you simply going to delete loads of data and hold on tight? Are you simply going to listen to the lawyers and get loads of Latin documents uploaded onto your website that aren't really in your tone of voice? Are you going to make sure that all the sign-up forms don't sound very nice, but at least you've covered yourself? Or are you going to look at this as an opportunity to do some great business and actually use GDPR as an attraction tool for candidates, clients and consultants? Don't forget to sign up to our 4 key channels, our recruiter documents and our resources part of our website, our recruitment videos on YouTube, our recruitment newsletter as well, which goes out monthly, and obviously our Recruitment Leaders podcast. Thank you very much everyone for listening in today, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Take care.